All right, it says they're preparing our live stream. Setting up your webinar for YouTube Live. All right, it looks like we are live, we are live, we are live, we are live, we are live. This is Soapbox Heroes. My name is Tyrone Irvin, and this is our very first official debate on YouTube. Soapbox Heroes is a show where we debate, we go over different topics, and we see different people's perspective, different people's points of view. We have been doing it for a year on Facebook, and now we're moving it over to the YouTubes. And so you have seen the rest. Now you're gonna see the best. We've had a few people come and they've been peeking at us and doing what we do. So you're gonna see how we really do it. So today we are going to have a wonderful debate. We have Robert Kelly here today and Anthony Rivers, and we are going to be debating: can the political system work for Black people? Once again, can the political system work for Black people? So let's take a second and let the guys introduce themselves. Robert, take a second and introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are, where you're coming from.
Robert Kelly, California, friend of the people.
Friend of the people? What you mean, friend of the people, Robert? How are you a friend of the people?
That's what I do. I mean, when I study, when I come on this show, and anything that I give out is for the people. So I'm your friend. That's it.
All right. Hold on. I got some backfeed coming from somewhere. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Got the backfeed issue. Yeah, that's yours. You got to turn yours down. All right, Anthony, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Anthony Rivers. You can find me on Facebook. I got a Facebook page called Child Support Reform USA, where we try to help fathers get custody and just point out some of the things that's wrong with the family court system. And I'd like to thank Tyrone for having me on Soapbox Heroes again. And I'm a friend. I'm a friend of Black people. So,
a friend of Black people. What you mean a friend of Black people? Both of you guys are friends of Black people.
Well, he said people, so I assume he's talking about all people. He usually, he's a defender of all people.
He said of the people.
Yeah, the people. He talking about everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a friend to the Black people, so I'm trying to make sure I wake my people up. Chinese people help Chinese people, and they got people helping them, and Arabs got the Arabs people helping them, and they don't need my help. I'm here for Black people.
I'm sure you're nice to all of them, though.
All right. Well, hey, look, I guess Anthony, he started giving a little bit of fodder for his debate. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off with an opening. And since Anthony is the one who challenged Robert to the debate, I'm going to give them both. Anthony's going to have a 4-minute opening to lay out the premise of the debate and to begin to lay out what he thinks about what Robert feels. And then we're going to give Robert the same amount of time to come back and rebut it. And we'll go on from there. We'll do 3 rounds of that. And then we're going to do a rounds of you ask, you answer. And so each person is going to be able to ask the other person a question directly. We'll do 3 questions. And if we add some more, we'll add some more. This is the internet. This is our show. We can kind of do what we want. We're going to muscle it like that. And so, but that's how we're going to do it. And in that section, they get to ask each other questions directly. And the other person directly answers the question. If the question can be answered, we'll move on. Then we'll give a little brief ending, and we'll go ahead and end it. So we'll go ahead and start. Let me get my hand on the clock right here. Let me get my hand on the clock, Anthony. And so, Anthony, 4 minutes. Go ahead and lay out the premise of your debate, and go ahead and start laying out your debate, and then we'll give Robert 4 minutes to respond and rebut, and we'll go on from there. Go ahead, Anthony.
All right. Well, basically, I met Robert on the Soapbox Heroes show. We became friends on Facebook, and I posted an article about how the LGBTQ community is getting some rights added along to the civil rights movement. How they kind of hijacked the civil rights movement, because that's what I believe. and basically, you know, he made a comment where he didn't agree, so we didn't agree on that. And then I pointed out how, you know, how Black Americans get discriminated at the bank system, and, you know, through the banking system, and he feels like the American government has Black people's back. And I told him I don't feel that way. And he told me that he felt like because you know, they put it in the newspaper and give these guys some small little penny fines, he felt like that was the American government having people's back. And I don't agree that the American government has Black people's back. So that kind of got us going. And then before you know it, you know, we challenged each other to a little debate. It took a little while to get here, but you know, that's kind of how we ended up here. And when I say I'm a friend of the people, I'm not saying I hate other races or anything like that. But what I'm saying is my main concern is my people. And I'm not mad at white people who feel like their main concern is white people. I'm not mad at Arabs who feel like their main concern is Arab people. You know, so it's nothing personal, but I just feel like I got to worry about my tribe and my people. So that's where my energy goes. And, you know, that's kind of how we ended up here. So that's about it.
Okay. Yeah, you had 2 minutes left, so we'll go ahead and yield the rest of your time. And like I said, anytime that you're done speaking, we can yield the rest of our time or whatever. Robert, here, let me put the same amount of time on the clock for you, just so we could make sure everything is fair and equitable around here. And Robert, take some time to go ahead and give your narrative on what he said. And then the next round, what we could do is Anthony could start laying out his facts and you could start laying out your facts. So Robert, go ahead and add your part to what he just said. Let me start the clock. Go ahead.
Okay, well, most of what he said was, you know, right down the middle. I think the main conversation that, you know, what brought about the conversation we're having now is because of a Facebook post that we did have a disagreement on. I want to say, like I say, you know, every time I do talk with Anthony, we've been on the panel a couple of times together. He's a good brother and he has a good heart, and it's good to have a heart for your people, no matter what, you know what I mean? So I do, and I respect that. I respect him deeply. So, where the disagreement lies is in the fact that I believe that we do have recourse with the government in certain instances. If, you know, he doesn't feel like maybe anyone that does anything against Black people, specifically the banks in this instance, are punished harshly enough. I mean, that's relative, right? And I mean, I would even agree with him on that. But just the fact that, you know, the only reason that he even knows that the banks were doing this type of behavior is because someone in the government stepped up and brought it to the attention of the people. The banks were getting over on this hand over fist for a long time, and oftentimes in decades past with the government's help. Okay. But then that very same government, because the system itself is not the problem. The problem is that the people in the system, there's crooked people in the system. And so when those people are replaced with people that are not crooked, what happens is those people begin to reveal some of the crooked things that are being done. Okay. And so the reason that we even know about the disparity in the loans and things of that nature is because someone in the government decided to bring that up. They can do whatever they want with their time as congressmen, as senators. They can do whatever they want. And for someone, a white person, to actually say, you know what, they're doing this to Black people and I'm not going to stand for it and I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to bring it to the light. What does that white person have to gain? They didn't have absolutely anything to gain by bringing it up. They did it because they don't care about that particular person doesn't care about your race. They care about doing what's right, you know? And so basically, my position is that Black people actually not only have recourse with the government, but the political system does definitely help Black people, not in the way that he's thinking I'm thinking. So let me just explain that really quickly. I'm saying that the reason that the political system helps is because Black people historically have been shown to make political gains during times of volatile social and economic conditions amongst white people. And I'm going to go ahead and lay that out as this debate goes on.
Okay. And do you want to surrender the rest of your time and we can move on to the next part? All right, let me stop the clock. And so what we will do right now is, Anthony, now we have the premises laid out and we know what both of you guys think. Anthony, go ahead and I'll reset with the 4 minutes and go ahead and start laying out your facts. And after you lay out your facts, we'll let Robert rebut, and then we'll come and let you do another rebuttal to that, and we'll do another follow-up to that, and we'll see where we're at, where we are then. All right, Anthony, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, go ahead.
All right, well, I got 4 main issues that I'm going to lay out here today to show you that the government does not have Black people's back at all. And since we're starting, with, one of them is going to be about the banking system. The other one's going to be about the civil rights era and the civil rights movement, who that really benefited. Affirmative action, who affirmative action really benefited. And I'm going to talk about policy just for Black people, the policy that just Black people get comparison to the Latinos, the Indians, the LGBT movement, community, whatever. I'm going to lay out how they get policy just for them. We don't get policy just for us. So I'm going to lay out how, the American government does not have Black people's back. And I'm going to get started now talking about the banks. Now, Robert believes that the American government has Black people's back just for the simple fact that they're willing to talk about it and post it in the newspaper. But to me, I consider that a symbolic gesture. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm going to get started with a couple of these banks who've been busted and show you what the fines were and how much these banks are worth and where does the fine money and where does it go? Now, I'm going to start with JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Bank is actually like one of the top banks in the country. They have a net worth and assets of $2.62 trillion. All right, $2.62 trillion. So I want to get that out the way so you understand how much money JP Morgan Bank is working with. $2.62 trillion. I had to repeat that. Now, they got a fine in 2017, January 18th, 2017, of $55 million for charging Black borrowers more money on loans and houses comparison to whites. All right. And they got a $55 million fine. So a $55 million fine comparison to $2.62 trillion, that's like a couple nickels. You know what I mean? That's just a couple nickels. So that's not a real reason to stop doing what they're doing. So with 55 million, that's nothing to them. They're going to continue to do it. I guarantee you they'll be busted again. Another issue is that with that 55 million, where does the 55 million go? I can tell you one thing: it does not go to Black people. So all those Black people who got discriminated against at JP Morgan Bank, and they were going to, now there's been one situation with one bank, and I'll bring that up, that the money actually did go to Black people, but that's only one bank, one situation. All these other fines I'm going to run off, the money just disappears into thin air. So that 55 million, you got Black business owners, Black home owners who are trying to make things happen, and they cannot get the loan. So if a Black person has a business idea and they're trying to start a business, let's say that business was going to generate them $100,000 per year, they lost out on that opportunity because of this $2.62 trillion bank like JP Morgan. That fine money does not go to them. So that $100,000 per year or $50,000 per year that they could have generated or more through that business, they'll never see, never generate. That opportunity is gone. So how does the government fining JP Morgan $55 million really benefiting anyone? And it's the government that bailed out the banks during the Obama era when the banks had blew a bunch of money and giving them, the CEOs, big money and big bonuses. Time. Okay,
that's time, Anthony. All right, and like I said, we'll add rounds until you guys got all your points out. Okay, Robert, go ahead. You got 4 minutes.
That was a great point about the bailouts. Definitely. That bailout was definitely in the interest of keeping capitalism alive, because basically with the volatileness, capitalism is on its last legs in America. It's very volatile. What I will say to your point about the banks, very good point. That is a small fine, $55 million. And but the thing is that now that is known, you don't have to bank with JP Morgan Chase. You have alternatives. But did people care enough? Did actual real people care enough? Did black people start taking their money out of JP Morgan's banks? No, they didn't. They still bank with them. So it basically, obviously, we have to take some responsibility and take some things into our own hands, close accounts with them, and refuse to work with them. We don't organize boycotts, right? You've seen that across all kinds of different things where we've been wronged in businesses. And so that is, we do have some things we can do, flex our own muscle a little bit too. You know what I mean? But I want to clarify something. When I say that we the government, we have help in the government, or the political process works for us, I'm not saying that the government, U.S. government, has our back. What I'm saying is that in times of socioeconomic volatility, black people have proven to make gains. And let me give you an example of that. One was when we were slaves. Now, slavery did not end because people started liking black people and didn't want slavery, or because it was a moral issue and they wanted to be good people now. That's not why slavery ended. The reason slavery ended is because the North was more industrial. The South was, they were more agricultural. They wanted slaves. The North wanted to free the slaves because they wanted cheap labor. They wanted everybody to go north and work in their little factories and stuff like that for cheap. Okay, so they all had, this wasn't because they loved us that slavery ended. They actually went to war. Now, and when they went into war, due to that social economic turmoil that was going on, Lincoln, who never said anything about freeing the slaves before, issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which meant that any territory that they took back into the United States, any slaves in that territory would be free. They did that to cripple the South. So none of this was because they liked black people. And none of this is because they cared about black people. They did it as a strategic way to win a war. That's why slaves got free. But do you see how that socioeconomic turmoil actually made a political gain for black people that they didn't even have a hand in? Okay, and then so basically, and if you go and fast forward to the 60s, a war-weary people, as the Vietnam War protesting, people protesting different things going on at that time, protesting the Cold War, people that were just there was socioeconomic turmoil amongst white people. During that time, that's when we saw the time to basically assert ourselves and to get civil rights. They didn't do it because they loved black people. They did it because it happened because when the turmoil was going on, there were black people that said, this is an opportunity for us to strike while the iron's hot. This is an opportunity for us to take control of what's going on and push. Now, are we going to get, we're incrementally making more and more progress, okay? You've never seen a people go from where they were being slaves to where we are now. It's not perfect. We're not where we want to be yet. But look at what's going on now. The fall of capitalism, I believe, in the United States is going to be a big change. There's social and economic turmoil going on right now. This is an opportunity for us to step in, and black people that have some kind of insight and understand what's going on in history can step in and say, you know what, let's try to make a move right now to get even more political gain while these white folks are fighting each other. It's historically impossible.
Okay. All right, Anthony. We're going to go ahead and reset the clock and let you give your response to Robert's rebuttal. Let me go ahead and put 4 minutes on the clock. Do you guys feel like 4 minutes is enough time for you to get your response in?
I probably need 5.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll move it up to 5, and we'll make sure that Robert gets the same amount of time. Go ahead, Anthony.
Okay. Now, I would like to rebuttal a couple of things that he said. Now, I agree with his interpretation of why slavery ended. I don't believe that white folks just became good people overnight. But I would like to talk about some things that have gone on since then and how we're not benefiting, even though it may appear that we are. Now, yeah, I live in a house and I have electricity and I can go out and go, and got a flat screen TV. But if you look at capital gains, there's been a study that by the year 2053, black people will have zero wealth in this country. Now, you talk about slavery and black people going to the north. My grandfather was from Alabama, from a town called Forkland, Alabama. And he moved from Forkland, Alabama to work in Detroit. at the Ford factory. Now, if you look back when slavery ended, a lot of black people went to the North. You know, they went to the North. They went there looking for the jobs. But I'm going to name off some things that has happened to black people since then and during these times that they've never been reimbursed for, no compensation, no reparation. Now, a lot of people don't talk about this, but you have Red Summer 1919. Red Summer 1919 was where there's over 100 riots all throughout the country. One of the worst ones being the massacre of Elaine, Arkansas, where they killed over 250 black people. Now those black families never got no compensation, no reparation, and nothing in return for their family members being killed. That's just one of the riots during Red Summer 1919. There was riots in St. Louis, right outside St. Louis, where a lot of white folks went and killed a lot of black folks because they were mad because they had those factory jobs. Those black people didn't get no reparations, no compensation, or nothing for those riots. So that stopped black wealth. You know, some of those black people might have become very wealthy. They might have been able to open banks. We'll never know because that their lives were snatched from them by white mobs. You look at Black Wall Street. I mean, I can go on with Red Summer 19. You can look it up, do the research yourself. I mean, it was riots all over the country where white mobs was killing educated, hard-working black folks for just working hard. So this whole myth that black people don't work hard is a myth. We work for free, and we work very hard. And when we were working hard in 1919, white mobs destroyed it. Then you go to Black Wall Street, 1921. Black Wall Street, 1921, was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Those black people were working very hard, building their own community, doing it the right way, not begging white folks for a handout, not protesting so they can walk inside the front door of a white business and to spend money with white folks who will probably spit in your food because they really don't want you there. They started building their own community, their own libraries, their own hospitals, their own dentists, their own banks. And what happened? The white mob came in and destroyed it. They lost their homes, they lost their businesses, they lost the land, no compensation, no reparation, nothing was given to them people. Those people could have been billionaires by now, passing down wealth like how J.P. Morgan and the Rockefellers have been able to do, but we'll never know that because they weren't able to pass down that wealth from 1921 because white mobs decided to destroy the community. Not only did they destroy the community, they flew over in planes, throwing sticks of dynamite out of the plane and dynamite them. So, you know, and burnt down the whole city and didn't give nothing in return. Those families got nothing in return. So where's the government at in those situations? Now I'm gonna go back to the bank situation. A lot of these banks, I can show you 8 situations where banks have discriminated against blacks, but I'm gonna go to just one in particular real quick. The Bank of America, they got busted in 2011. Now, Bank of America is worth $2.34 trillion. They got a $335 million fine and another $2 million fine. That is like pennies to these people. So banks will get busted not only once, they'll get busted twice. So the American government does not have black people's backs.
Okay, here, let me go ahead and let me stop the clock right there. I take with the hard pause, you're surrendering your last 16 seconds. And let me start the clock over for you, Robert. Let me go ahead and put 5 minutes on the clock. And if you guys are watching, take the time, go ahead and share. Hit subscribe. This is Soapbox Heroes. This is our very first debate here on YouTube. This is not our first debate, just our first debate on YouTube. We are true to this. We are not new to this. So you guys go ahead and invite some people. Hit the subscribe. Okay, Robert, I got your time on the clock. And you guys don't forget to write down questions that you guys want to ask each other in our open question session. Go ahead, Robert, it's on you.
Okay, so first of all, I agree with Anthony on the fact that he's saying that with the atrocities that went down in 1919, 1921, not a lot of people know about that. I think it's something that white people try to hide. and I totally agree, you know, that there was no compensation for those people. But that wasn't, those weren't actions of the government. But it doesn't excuse, of course, the government should have acted. But like I said before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, you know, remind him that my stance is that in order for us to, the recourse that we have with the government is the way that the opportunities that we take in taking action. It's not because the government loves us. It's not because they're looking out for us. What it is because we can, if we have the proper mindset, we can take action and we can make gains if we're looking at and reading the tea leaves properly. Political action is about timing. Political action is about power. It's about force over time. And we have an opportunity, a better opportunity than ever, in order to apply pressure. We have to understand how. We have to educate ourselves on how. If we have any political failings as a people, it's because we haven't mastered the fundamentals of power. And it's almost like an offense versus defense. Say, for instance, there are people in the federal government that want white people to remain in power and white supremacy. This is a very real thing, okay? Now, say there are black people that want to make gains in that government. Now we have a situation where it's our offense versus their defense. Their defense is a lot better than our offense at this point. And we can't get complacent. We have to get better. We have to get fundamentally better. Because the process itself, like I said, the process itself, there's nowhere else in the world where the process is better. The thing is, it's the people that are in power currently. But what I see happening right now is there going to be a tremendous shift in power and who's in power and why they're in power. And as that shift happens, there is going to be an opportunity for us to either progress or regress. The choice is really up to us, and we're not waiting for the government to do anything. We people that have, some kind of insight and some kind of leadership need to step up and begin to implement new ideas, new strategies, and because we need different results, so we need different types of thinking. And as our thinking changes, and we start to understand that we are in a position that where we do have more power than we think. We may not be the on top, but we have more power than we think. And because when these white people argue in these elections, what's happening is they're pretty much split down the middle on everything. That means that minorities have an opportunity to apply pressure one way or the other in order to get what they want. But because we fail to come to the negotiating table in a proper way, because we trust people that have shown to be full of corruption, and because we as a people have a hard time uniting around ideas that really work, we have had problems in actually executing the thing and getting the things we really want. But look at something like the ADOS movement. In 5 years, ADOS has gone from the idea of we're going to push for reparations to reparations actually being talked about by presidential candidates. They're actually tabling this thing now because of the applied pressure of the movement. Do you understand what I'm saying? We have to continue to apply that pressure. We may not get it the first time or the second time, but as we continue, trust me, we have a great opportunity to make gains like never before. And it's only because of the way that the political system is set up in America. There's certain countries where they didn't have a such civil rights movement. They don't have a First Amendment. We couldn't sit right now and play a lot of places. We can't sit around and talk and criticize the government. We can't bring anything up or bring anything to the table, but we can here. And that opportunity is priceless if we understand how to use it.
Okay, you surrendering the rest of your time, Robert?
Yeah.
2 seconds. Okay, you guys, and hey, everybody, if you're watching again, if you're watching now, if you're watching later, this is Soapbox Heroes. You guys go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You guys go ahead and hit like. I want to thank everybody who got something to say in the super chat. You guys are super. Keep chatting. Not the super chat. I've been watching too many videos. Live chat, not super chat. I don't even know what a super chat is yet, but we're new on YouTube, so we are here and we are doing it. And again, we are debating, can politics work for the African American community? Can politics work for Black people? And so, Anthony, I put 5 minutes back on the clock, and after this time, I'll give Robert the same amount of time, and then we'll turn over to where you guys can start asking each other some questions. Go ahead, Anthony.
All right, so I'm gonna I'd like to just dispute some of the things he just said. Now this isn't to be. I know a lot of Black people hate the truth. Not all, but there's a portion that just hate the truth and they really want to believe in the American government, and that's fine. That's your choice. If you want to vote and you want to keep trying, hey, more power to you. I'm not going to knock you, but my thing is, don't get your hopes up, and I'm explaining to you why this will never work. Now, all these so-called Black leaders in the Congressional Black Caucus, if you go to the Hispanic Black Caucus page on Twitter, you can do this. I'm not mad. Go do this when we get done talking about it. If you go to the Hispanic Caucus page on Twitter, it tells they specifically explain to you who they're fighting for and what they're fighting for. They tell you, we are fighting for Latinos and we're trying to make this thing happen in so many words, okay? If you go to the LGBT movement caucus or whatever, their little page, you'll see where it talks about we're fighting for LGBT rights. They tell you exactly who they're fighting for. Now, you go to the Black Caucus page, you ain't gonna see nothing on there about Black people. You're not gonna see it. You go to the Hispanic Caucus page, go to the Black Caucus page. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. That's number one. Absolutely. Number two is all these black leaders are handpicked. You might feel like you're voting for them, but they're handpicked. If it's 3 of them up there and you're voting, they're all handpicked. And on top of that, they're funded by the same people that hate your guts, that hate Black people. That's who funds them. That's who supports them. That's where they get their campaign money. Black people as a whole, we do not fund our own politicians. We don't have grassroots politicians that believe like what I believe and what some of the other people, Black people believe, who can see this whole system is not for us. It's corrupt as hell. These leaders are not for us. They're not being funded. The people who are being funded by the same people that hate our guts. So these people get in these positions, they know who's funding them. They know who they're getting their orders from. So they're going to do exactly what's being said. That's why if you pay attention to all these, reparations is on the table. Yeah, they're talking about it because they see that we're getting mad and we're discussing it. But they all saying they don't want to give no cash. They're coming over. Oh, we want to do a study. We want to give money to HBCUs and historically Black colleges. We want to, they're trying to figure out every other way to act like they're doing something for Black people, but they don't really want to. Nobody, when the Caucasian Jews was trying to get reparations, nobody said, well, we want to give the money to these Jewish universities and we want to give it to, they didn't say that. But when it comes to us, the money got to go a certain here, it's got to go a certain there. And a lot of those people that got this is another thing that kills me about Jewish people getting reparations. A lot of those people who got reparations, not all of them were alive and went through the situation. Some of their family members that went through it, they died and they still benefited. So the fact that Black people want to get reparations, they always try to say, well, you guys weren't in it, but my ancestors were. Just like how some of those Jewish people who got reparations, their ancestors died in the concentration camps or whatever, and they still were able to benefit. So at the end of the day, how can you benefit when your leaders don't support you? Kamala Harris specifically said, I'm not going to say that I'm going to do anything just for Black people. If you're not doing anything just for Black people, but Hispanic people can get things done for them. So now I'm going to talk about policy. Now, the Congressional Black Caucus was part of this disgusting policy I'm getting ready to talk about that's about to get passed or they're trying to pass. Now, there's a policy about to get passed that they're trying to pass. It's called H.R. 6, the American Dream and Promise Act of 2019. That is policy just for Latinos, okay? So they can get policy just for them, but we can't. Here goes another one that Obama passed, the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crime Prevention Act, just for the LGBT community. Plus, they got married under Obama. Policy just for them. No policy just for us. Name me some policy that's just for us.
All right. And here, let me go ahead and stop your time on that. And then, like I said, we'll give Robert the same amount of time to respond. And Robert, after you respond to that, rebut his last statements, then we'll go on and we'll move on to where you guys can ask some questions. And if you would like, that'll be a good time to lay out whatever facts that you want to lay out. And we will go from there. Here, let me put this 5 right here. So we got the time back on the clock. So this will be the last round of the rebuttals. And so this will be the last 5-minute round of that. And again, if you guys are watching, my name is Tyrone Urban. This is Soap by T-Rose. This is what we do. We do debates. We do all type of different things to let you see different people's perspectives. So if you're watching for the first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe, hit the like button. That helps other people see what we're doing. Robert, go ahead. I'll start the clock now.
Okay. Anthony, man, great points. I can't with the facts you're bringing out, I can't dispute them. I have to agree with them. Basically, yeah, we've been sold out by our own Black leaders. Point blank, period. They're bought by the establishment, and they work for the establishment. And that's kind of what I laid out last time. We've been politically, the system is not broken. It's the people in the system. So we have to start supporting politics, because there's going to be, whether we like the system or not, we live here, and the politicians are going to be there and everything. But we need to start supporting people that are not bought and paid for, people that don't take corporate money, don't take PAC money. We need to start supporting candidates like that, plain and simple, because because like I said, a lot of these Black politicians were bought and paid for, and they've been set up in that place by the military industrial complex, by pharmaceutical companies, by people that they want to sell us out. Whoever wants to buy us, they've sold us out to them. And so you're absolutely correct in that, man. You're absolutely correct. But is there a solution to that? Yes, there is. That's not a permanent situation. We can change things. And so basically, in order to change things, we have to apply pressure. We have to use the power that we have in order to apply that pressure, and we can't look for instant results like it's some kind of microwave society thing. Because if I had a big boulder in my backyard and I started pushing on it, it was too heavy for me, and I start calling my neighbors to come help me, and we're all pushing, it's not moving at first. We keep pushing until we roll that thing out of the way. It's called momentum. And because for every Black person that says they want that does actually participate in the political process, that does actually do any kind of real good for the people, there's another one or two other ones that say, oh, we're not going to vote. Oh, I won't. I don't believe applying that pressure will work. Oh, I'm disenfranchised with the process. Part of that is because the process has not always been good to us, but part of that is because of the rhetoric that's been spread that the process can't be better to us if we're better with it. See, it's a game that you play, and then the more you play it, the better you get at it. We need to get better at politics. We need to get better at power. We need to understand power more. This is a quote from Dr. Amos Wilson. You can look him up. This guy he's no longer with us, but a powerful philosopher, Black philosopher. He says, if our study of Black history is merely an exercise in feeling good about ourselves, then we'll die feeling good. We must look at the lessons that history teaches us. We must understand the tremendous value of the study of our history and regaining of power. If our education is not about gaining real power, we are being miseducated and misled, and we will die miseducated and misled. That is a drop the mic moment for him. Because basically, if you think about it, if we're not doing this to get more power, what are we doing it for? What are we going to do? What kind of power can we gain by everybody just sitting at home and not voting? What kind of power can we gain by people not participating in the process that's going to go on with or without us? What kind of power can we gain by not continuing to use the pressure, the tactics, and the things that are being used against us to our favor, so that we can actually make some gains? People will say, sometimes will call somebody that participates in those type of situations a house Negro. But a house Negro is someone that sits in the house when it's time to take action. It's time to take action because of the socio-economic volatility that's going on right now. It's something that we can use to our advantage. And if we strike while the iron's hot, and if we actually look at what's going on right now, we can make severe political gains. History's already proven it. We need to move forward.
Okay, we're gonna surrender the last 40 seconds. That's what I assume. When I hear the hard silence, that's what I know you assume. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna turn off the clock. And what we're gonna do here, this is my favorite part of the debates when we do this format. So at this part, both debaters are going to ask each other questions directly, and it's the responsibility of the other debater to answer the question directly. So gentlemen, take off your track shoes. There is no running. Robert, let's start with you, and you start with the first question.
Okay. Can you give me some examples in history where we made strides socioeconomically without the government?
Well, for example, in 1921, Black Wall Street, that was a stride made by Black people without the government. We were segregated, which I believe was the best. Looking back at it and knowing what I know now about today's times, and when we were segregated, I believe that segregation was the best thing for us. I believe we had more actually, I don't say I believe. Facts show that we had more Black businesses, more Black lawyers, more Black doctors. We were in a better situation. If you look back at the pictures in the time, our women weren't twerking on the internet. They wore dresses. Black men wore suits. Even little kids wore suits. I feel like when we were segregated, we had our own Negro League, which could have turned into baseball. When we were segregated, we might have had our own NFL teams, and a lot of our players and our athletes are the ones who basically support and build these. You take all the NFL is 70% Black. If we take them back to when we were segregated and we had our own league, we'll be getting that money. So I believe that before segregation, when the government wasn't helping us, was the best thing for us. That's why I'm not a fan of Martin Luther King. I know that's going to hurt a lot of Black people's feelings, but I'm not a fan of Martin Luther King at all. I believe he made people weak. I believe racist liberals and racist white folks use him to make us soft and weak, and that we're supposed to sit up there and take getting beat on and take getting hosed down and take anything that happens to us, and we're supposed to turn the other cheek. And the Bible does not teach that. Ecclesiastes 3 talks about there's a time for everything, a time to love, a time to hate, a time to kill. You can read it yourself. So the Bible does not teach just sit there and take an ass whooping. So I'm not a fan of Martin Luther King. So my answer is, back when we were segregated, like 1921, Black Wall Street, and we were doing pretty good in Harlem too. A lot of people don't talk about that, but in the 30s, we did very well in Harlem. I would say those were times where we made stride without the American government. We got to be separated.
Okay. Robert, did that sufficiently answer your question?
Yeah, the only rebuttal I have for that is that segregation was a law made by the government. They kept us apart on their own. They kept us apart, so even if we wanted to mix, we wasn't going to be able to legally. Those were laws. Those were government laws.
Okay, Anthony, go ahead with your question. And again, this is the part where the debaters get to ask each other questions directly, because so many times in debates, you'll hear debaters say, man, I had a question I wanted to ask myself, or moderator, why didn't you ask this? So debater, go ahead and ask. Go ahead, Anthony.
I would like to know if affirmative action, does Robert consider that policy just for Black people? And,
no.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I thought.
Okay, and because a lot of Black people do, they believe that was policy designed to help them. So I wanted to ask Robert, because a lot of Black people do believe that. Who benefits the most from affirmative action?
Well, statistically, I don't know. I would probably say women. I mean, point blank period. Maybe, probably white women. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Affirmative, yeah, but just as an example, but just to explain a little bit so people will understand about affirmative action. Affirmative action ain't about taking the any person that's the dumbest person in the group and putting them in a college just because they're of that demographic. It's like, say for instance, two people are equally qualified to get into a certain college, a certain job, or anything like that. If for the sake of diversity, the EEOC has actually just has encouraged basically people to make diversity hires in order, when all things being equal, in order to make sure that they have a diverse workplace and to cut down on discrimination. Does it eliminate discrimination? No, we know that. Okay, let's not be stupid. But there are a lot of lawsuits that people file with the EEOC, and they have a pretty high rate of return on those type of lawsuits. So they do, and every time that someone brings a complaint to the EEOC, they are obligated by law to investigate as well. So, I mean, while affirmative action itself isn't merely something simply for Black people, it doesn't stop the fact that Black people still have recourse with the government when they feel discriminated against or when they can prove that they've been discriminated against in a way.
Okay, Anthony, does that sufficiently answer your question?
Yeah, I'd like to just rebuttal one thing. He was right about white women. White women are the number one beneficiary, not women, white women. And a lot of Black people believe that affirmative action is, and that's another lie that a lot of racists, Caucasian racists, try to use and make it seem like, Black people are just benefiting from this affirmative action. But statistics show, and it's been proven, that white women are the beneficiary who benefit the most from affirmative action. And affirmative action was passed in 1961, March 6, 1961 by JFK. And it was an executive order. It came out of Executive Order 10925, 10925. It was an executive order. So the reason why I brought that up is because a lot of these Obama worshippers who just won't accept Black Obama worshippers specifically, who just won't accept that Obama was a failure, understand that JFK passed the affirmative action through an executive order. Obama did 270 plus executive orders, none for Black people. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay. And again, so like this is the part where we're directing questions toward each other, and this is the part of the debate where can nobody wear their track shoes so you can't run away. This is the Soapbox Heroes. My name is Tyrone Irvin, and again, if you guys are watching, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I'm doing my due diligence because this is what they say that I'm supposed to do, so I'm doing it anyway. Robert, ask him a question, you guys. Ask each other some tough questions. These are you're watching the work.
I think it's just the debate sounds so amicable because we want the same things. That's we both want the same things. It's just we have different ways of going about it. Okay. Now there are millions of Black people, poor Black people, and children that do not have health care in the United States, the richest country in the world. How do you suggest that we handle the problem of Black people not having health care to take care of, or their children without government help? How do we do that?
Well, in my opinion, I would say you have to sacrifice. Sorry about that. I'm on my phone and somebody called in. I would say you have to sacrifice. Insurance is expensive. Right now, I'm paying about $300-400. It's like $375 or something. Man, sorry about that. Calling in.
Everybody likes it today.
Yeah. For some reason, I never get calls when we're doing this. I'm paying almost $400 for insurance. But you have to sacrifice. Like, I don't wear Jordans. I buy shoes that are on sale. I look for shoes that are on sale because I'm in my late 30s, and when I was young, a pair of Jordans cost $100. Now they're up to 200 plus. So I can't see myself paying something 200 plus for something that I once seen go for $90. So my thing is, you have to sacrifice. You have to go without. So you can pay for it, but there's going to be some things you're not going to be able to get. And am I sad because I can't buy Jordans all the time? No, I'm not, because I don't really care.
Right.
You might want to buy a weave, but you can't buy a weave. You're gonna have to go natural. You might want to buy some Jordans. You might want to buy some True Religion jeans or some Gucci belts and all the stuff that you want to buy, but you're gonna have to go without those things. So my thing is, you have to sacrifice. If you got to work 2 jobs, you may have to do that. One full-time, one part-time. Go to a trade school. Try to better your financial situation. Live below your means. Yeah, you might be able to afford a $1,500 a month rent, but maybe find something that's only $1,100. You're gonna have to sacrifice. Instead of cooking a new meal every night, eating out, you might have to buy some food and cook some spaghetti and warm it up the next day and eat spaghetti 2 days in a row. Sacrifices are going to have to be made. I heard one time, Robert, when he was having a debate with Tommy, and he was talking about how the Sky Daddy, because I believe in the Bible. He talked about a Sky Daddy up there. Well, in my opinion, I would rather wait on Sky Daddy than wait on White Daddy. And when you're sitting there and you're waiting on the government he's going to give us free health care, and Bernie Sanders is going to be my new hero now. You're waiting on White Daddy. So my thing is, I don't wait on White Daddy. I don't believe in waiting on White Daddy.
All right, Anthony, let's give Robert a chance to
okay.
Let's let Robert give a chance to jump in.
Okay.
Because you're giving him a lot, and I know that's something that he might want to say by now. And again, and after this, we'll go ahead and ask each other you guys' final question. And then just to put it on your mind, I'm going to ask you your final conclusion on why or why not can the political system work for Black people. Go ahead, Robert.
Well, the only rebuttal I have to that is when we talk about the uninsured people, and most of it is not able-bodied people that work full-time and things of that nature. Most of it is older people like my mother, who has health problems, pre-existing conditions, can't get good medical insurance, and has to decide sometimes on whether to get her prescriptions or has to decide to eat. So people that live in cold weather cities and have to decide on whether to pay gas bill or electric bills, or get their prescriptions. That shouldn't happen. There shouldn't be people that make $120 billion while there are 15 million kids that are hungry, in poverty, and uninsured. It just doesn't make sense. And the only way that we're going to, the rich people have shown they're not going to do it. You can't just ask them to do it and they'll do it for people. Their hand has to be forced, because, people aren't good. They don't, they don't give a damn. They'll let you drown out here. But I think that everybody paying their fair share for the things that we all do and use in America, like the roads, like the everything that comes across here, that shouldn't be a big deal. And if we can make it a situation where everybody has healthcare, then you're damn right we should be doing that. It's not a political issue. It's not a money issue. It's a moral issue. It is, do you think that people will be better off? I can get my own healthcare. Other people can get their own healthcare too. But wouldn't the whole nation of people, wouldn't all Black people be better off if every Black person healthcare? I mean, come on, that's easy answer.
Go ahead, Anthony. I know you.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate it. And if he can, I want to ask a few more questions. So if he has time and he's willing to do it, and if you're willing to do it, Tyrone, obviously, I still would like to ask a few more questions after this, but I would like to make a rebuttal to that. Now, I don't know your mother's situation, but I'm almost willing to bet that she lives in her own home and she pays rent and bills, and you live in your own home and pay rent and bills. And in reality is when I talk about sacrificing, maybe if your mom lived with you and you guys had one house, how we used to do it in ancient times where we took care of our elderly and took care of, that'll be money saved to where we can afford these types of things. You know, you're going to have to sacrifice. You know, I've seen Mexicans live 15, 20 deep in a house before. You know what I mean? So I just believe that, you know, waiting on the government does not care about people. And they damn sure don't care about black people. That's why the government did their test on
Neither
us,
do insurance companies, Anthony.
like the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. And the insurance companies and the banks are in bed with the government. They might have a different name, but they're in bed with the government. The insurance companies are the ones who fund these politicians who write the policies, just like Obama did, you know, to raise the rates. So everybody thought Obamacare was a good thing, but if you really do the research on it, it was a bad thing. If you do the research on the Obamacare, it really was a bad thing, especially for the people who pay. You know, the premiums went up. People lost their insurance, had to go to other insurance companies. When he said that wouldn't happen, and the people who wrote the policy for him laughed about it. You can look it up and find it on YouTube, and you'll see the situation that I'm talking about, where the architect of Obamacare was laughing about the language that Obama talked about, where we wouldn't lose our health care coverage. So my thing is, you know, the government does not care about black people. That's why they tested the Tuskegee experiments on us, the syphilis experiments on us. They don't care. So we're talking about, well, they're not moral and all that. We know they're not. They'll rather buy bombs and go to war and spend $1 trillion plus in Afghanistan, not including Iraq and all these other ones, because they don't care. So why would I sit around and keep begging some people to all of a sudden have a heart? They don't have a heart. They're never going to have a heart. So my thing is, I just think, like I said, sacrificing. You know, I'm not trying to knock your situation, but all I'm saying is black people as a whole, you know, maybe if we move our mothers into the house and they, you know, yeah, it's going to be hard. You know, it would suck to live with your mom all the time because of the way how society is today. But if that's what needs to be so we can take care of each other and have that insurance, that's another part of sacrificing, not just being able to buy weaves and Jordans and all those things. We have to, you know,
let's let it go, Anthony. And then, like I said, we'll do some more pointed questions and then we'll go ahead and round it off. Go ahead, Robert.
Everything you just said where the insurance companies are buying people off, politicians and things like that, all that stuff is solved with a single payer healthcare. Because what it does, it eliminates private insurance, period. So when there's no need for an insurance company to get into anybody, they don't have any power. They have to take their act somewhere else. They have to take their dog and pony show somewhere else. They can no longer manipulate the people. So that's what you got to understand. And I don't understand why you would say, oh, you wouldn't trust the government because white people don't care, like an insurance company cares about you. Insurance companies do not care about you. They actually get paid by keeping coverage away from people, by doing things that cause people to die. That's how they get paid. So what would be the point? Why do we need private insurance around anymore?
Okay, now I'm gonna rebut that. Now the government is in with the insurance company. That's who helped this whole situation get set up. Now here goes another thing. I'm gonna do you one better than that. You're talking about a single payer healthcare. If you believe in the government so much, and the government is for the people and all this stuff, why don't we have the same insurance company as Congress do?
As who?
As Congress. Why don't we have the same insurance as Congress?
Because Medicare right now is for old people. So old people have the same ones that the government has, and the government has good insurance. Medicare is actually good insurance. A lot of people that have Medicare, you can talk to old people that have it, and they enjoy it. But that's the whole point of Medicare for all, that we can get the same insurance that the people in Congress have. They have Medicare. That's the point.
They have lifetime.
All right, you guys, remember the premise of the debate. Can the political system work for black people? So let's just try to stay in the confines of what we're debating.
Okay.
Because you guys, now we're debating single payer health insurance and things of that nature. Now, if you guys throw that in to politics, working or not working for black people, that's fine. But I don't want to veer too much off the path. Robert, is there any direct questions that you have for Anthony that you would like him to answer?
Yeah. Say for instance that white people or the U.S. government said, you know what, this is what we're going to do to repay you guys. We'll give you 5 states, and you guys can move into those states. They're all yours. It could be, you can restrict white people or any other races from coming. It could be black people only if they choose to go. Okay? Say they just gave us that kind of gift. I'm not expecting that. Well, say they did that. I'm not expecting that. It's a hypothetical.
Okay.
What kind of government system would you prefer to have? And what would that look like? What would be a better government system than the United States that we could actually implement?
Okay, now, if that option was ever to happen, which won't happen, that's what the whole New Africa movement was about. They were trying to get the southern states. But let's say hypothetically, I'll do a hypothetical with you. Let's say that was to happen, okay? I would definitely hop on board. I'll take off and move right down there. Another thing is, I would say a real democracy, okay, where there is no campaign funds at all. No campaign funds at all. So no one can be bought. That would be, so this democracy that we supposedly have is not a real democracy, okay? Like, it's just not. So I would have a real democracy where there's no campaign funds, no electoral college, where it's all about votes, and I would, that would be the main thing I would do. I would just make sure that there's no, I'm cool with the whole voting thing, but this democracy is not real, so I would say that we would have a voting, but no campaign funds at all, no super PACs, no big pharma, no military industrial complex. Nobody can fund the the people running for government, and that's how I would set it up. And then when it comes to freedom of speech, we would have a real freedom of speech, because the freedom of speech that you believe in, that you believe is real, I don't believe is real. That's why I just got banned on Facebook. People are getting banned all over the place. There's people getting pushed off of campus for trying to say a certain thing. You got people showing up at people's rallies trying to stop them from saying stuff, and I don't want to hear that, and it's working. So freedom of speech isn't real. You think just because we can sit here and say that what we don't agree upon the government and we can get away with it, that's somehow full freedom of speech. It's not. Yeah, we get to do some little talking points and we can say what we want to say. But if I get to saying too much, there'll be a knock at the damn door. You know what I mean? So I don't believe that the freedom of speech that you believe in, that you think is real, I don't believe in it. I've had Instagram pages shut down. I've had Facebook pages shut down. The freedom of speech isn't real. So I would have a real freedom of speech where people can say what they want to say without getting banned and going to Facebook jail.
All right. And did he sufficiently answer your question, Robert?
Sure. The only rebuttal I have to that is if you get booted off Facebook or Instagram, those are businesses that are doing that. That's not they aren't government entities, and they're not controlled by the government in any way.
So why is it? Okay. My bad. I'll let you finish.
So, so in terms of what you're talking about first with the states, if we were to move into those states and go, you have some good ideas, but did you know that there are actual political candidates that are running on those same ideas that actually agree with you? And that's the platforms that they're running on right now, taking the money out of politics and eliminating the electoral college. These are things that right now are being not only discussed, but they're actually bills on the floor in order to eliminate the electoral college, and in order to elect to end corporate PACs and to keep lobbyists from buying politicians. So there are people that actually believe what you believe. And if you get behind those people, and you get behind those people with other people, with like-minded people, you can make a change, because that's the only way that anything's ever happened, is when groups of people have gotten together. There's no other way that things change than groups of people get together. I mean, you believe in God, and you believe in, the Most High God, and what did he say? You believe that, he says, if my people are called by my name, will, humble themselves, right? and pray, I'll heal their land. So that's about getting together, right? He says, gather yourselves together, right? That's because the Bible understands that's wisdom that everybody knows, that we're better when we get together as a group. And if your group is all black people, I don't have a problem with that. If your group is all black people, I don't have a problem with that. As a matter of fact, I'm under the same thing that Malcolm X talking about, where black people should have their own groups, white people should have their own groups, and we should be educating our own groups of people in order to push for those same things when we have commonality. That way there's no infiltration, there's no skepticism, there's none of that. But when people agree with you, they agree with you. And if they're over here agreeing and I'm over here agreeing, we can push to get. That's what politics is about.
Okay. All right, you guys. Hey, you guys mind if I ask? I got a question for each of you from the live chat. I want
to make one rebuttal to that real fast before we answer this question.
Go ahead, make a quick rebuttal so we can get to the question.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say this. If I know Facebook isn't supposed, even though I believe Facebook is ran by the CIA, we don't. But I'll be a conspiracy theorist on that. But let's put it this way. Okay. Now, I'll agree with you that they're not, and they're just their own entity. Why isn't the American government getting on them and helping me keep my freedom of speech on Facebook? Why aren't they shutting down Facebook, making it hard on them, finding them a couple $100 million over and over and over again till they leave people alone on there if America is all about free speech? That's one thing. And when you talk about the Bible, that's another misinterpretation that you have from a Christian point of view. The Bible, when it talks about gathering ourselves together, it's talking to the Israelites. It's talking to black people, the real Jews. It's not talking about everybody. Okay. Well, I'm just saying.
Guys, here we go. We get into the weeds again. Okay. Robert, was there something that you wanted to say to his rebuttal?
Yeah. So basically, if you're worried about what Facebook does, write to Congressman about it.
All right. Look, we got a question, and I have a question for both of you guys from the live chat. Salik Wayib L says, I have a question for Robert. How can the current government system work in favor for black people now?
Okay, so like I said before, that's a good question, first of all. But like I said before, the nature of a capitalist republic, like we're living in right now, is that there's ups and downs, ebbs and flows. And the opportunities come in that when there is socioeconomic volatility like we're having right now, where there's the gap between rich and poor is getting as such. Not just black people, not just Hispanics, white people, everybody's getting mad because there's people with billions of dollars and the government is getting elitist, and it's time for turnover. It's time for change. You understand what I'm saying? The people are crying out. Okay, 70% of the people in this country want single payer healthcare, and they want debt forgiveness for student loans. And the people are rising up against this bourgeoisie of a government we have with bought and paid for people in it, running it. And so as this changing of the guard happens, what we need to do is we need to look for new solutions, and we need to bind together in these times. I'm not saying as every race, like, oh, we like kumbaya, but black people have an opportunity, and we can get together and we can make gains by applying pressure on the situations and the priorities that we find the most important. We need to decide what our priorities are. We need to strike with irons hot. For me, our priorities, social, basically healthcare for all my people, and reparations. I mean, I can get behind. That's something I can definitely get behind, because I believe it's a punitive. It's a miscarriage of justice for us not to get reparations punitively, and that's because of the laws of the United States say that we're owed it. So basically, what we need to do is we need to apply pressure in this moment in time of socioeconomic turmoil, because once they try to stabilize everything again, it's gonna go back to the status quo, or black people could even regress if we don't do something. We can't just stand there like idiots.
Okay, and Salik, I hope that sufficiently answers your question. We have one more question, and it's for you, Anthony, and it's also for Salik Wayib from Salik Wayib L. And again, thanks to everybody in the live chat. If you guys can, if you haven't already, hit subscribe, hit like. The more you like and the more that you go back and forth with us, the more people will see it, the more you will be helping us grow this platform. Like I'm saying, we've done it for a year on Facebook. Now we're making a hard right turn to Facebook. I mean to YouTube. The question for Anthony: why do we have a democracy?
In my opinion, is if you look back throughout the, because I'm a history person myself. That's the kind of books that I read. I don't read fairy tales. I don't read any. I don't care about sports, and I'm not reading Sports Illustrated all day. If you look throughout history, every society has always had. They try to say in Greece they had Greece was the first democracy, so-called democracy. But for the most part, if you look throughout history, it's always been ran by kings, pharaohs. There's always been just one leader. When those type of situations occur, you start seeing real deal, problems in those societies, and those societies crumble because the people get tired of, just like in Russia, when they killed the Tsar of Russia, because they got tired of him. So the democracy is there to trick you. It's to make you think that you have a part of something that you really have no part in, because every leader has already been handpicked. So the people that you think that you're picking, they've already been picked for you and funded by the people who hate your guts and want them. So it's a trick to make you feel like somehow you're involved in the society when you're not involved at all. And that is why they like to try to make you think that you're involved. They want you to vote, because by you voting, you're basically, you feel like you're a part of something that you're not. And that's why the most dangerous thing in a democracy is when the people don't believe in it anymore, when they're not voting, when they're not showing up to the polls. That is the most dangerous thing in a democracy, because after you don't believe in this fake democracy anymore, and you're not voting anymore, eventually what comes after that? War. Because after you start to recognize that this fake democracy isn't working for you, and you've tried everything you tried, they gave you Obama. Obama didn't do nothing for you. He took care of the LGBT. Black people were starting to wake up. That's why I'm so glad that Obama is out of there. And I know this is going to piss a lot of people off, but I am happy God gave us Trump, and Trump is in there. Because black people, in my opinion, from what I see, are more paying attention now to policy, what's going on, and understanding policy more than they ever have in my lifetime, and any lifetime that I've seen since we've been a part of this so-called democracy, even all the way back to when we first got freed and we first gained our rights to vote. They didn't know what the hell was going on. They'll throw one little policy out there, like the whole Civil Rights Act of 1964, and that was all of a sudden a big deal, and they tricked us in. They tricked us with the 64 Act, Civil Rights Act in 1964, and they tricked us with Obama. But now we're getting past that. So, that is what's dangerous. So to me, the democracy is not real. It's fake.
Okay. And so look, this is what we're gonna go ahead and do now. Anthony, I'm gonna start with you, and I'm gonna let Robert get his last thoughts because you opened. And I'm going to ask you guys both to give your final conclusion on why politics can or cannot work for Black people. So just go ahead and wrap up your debate in one nice little package here. Go ahead, Anthony.
Okay, I'm just going to ask Robert one simple question real quick. Who did the Civil Rights era in the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Who benefited the most from the Civil Rights era in the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Who benefited the most, in his opinion?
I think that people that were being discriminated on because of their race or their religion, their ethnicity, I think that a lot of people benefited from it. I think that anytime the government makes an official stand against discrimination, it's not going to be unilateral as far as who benefits the most from it. But like I said, the EEOC has brought plenty of cases against private businesses since that act has been enacted. So, I mean, I don't have any statistic to be like, oh, but it
was supposed to be for Black people, right? The 64 Act was supposed to be for Black people.
No, well, what they wrote it for, it was black people, but it was also other people. Ethnicity means any ethnic. Race means any race. I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, they made that specifically for black people or supposed to be for black people. But black people, but black people were did benefit from it.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say this. A lot of black people, and Robert might not want to, for some reason, I feel like his answer is a little bit disingenuous, but that's just my opinion. A lot of black people believe that the Civil Rights Act was just for black people. Now, I'm going to give you some statistics real quick to prove to you that the American government does not benefit black people at all, and that the one bill that was supposed to be for black people did not really benefit black people. Now, you can go back to 1950. I'm gonna give you an act right here. It's called the 1952 Act, 1952 McCarran and Walter Act. Okay, this is 1952, before the Civil Rights Act. There was approximately 1,400 Africans coming to America every once in a while, but approximately 1,400 coming in. The Indians weren't pouring in. The Arabs weren't pouring in. None of them was pouring in when the KKK was riding around with the mask on and hanging black folks. They weren't here. The Latinos weren't pouring in. Nobody was pouring in at all. Okay, so you look back then, now nobody's pouring in. So after the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which was supposed to be for black people, you had the Integration Nationality Act of 1965. That is when all the other races started pouring in. All right, that's when all the Africans started coming over here who hate black people's guts. That's just my opinion. That's when all these Arabs start pouring in. That's when all these Indians start pouring in. But then the worst act of all happened in 1990 with the Immigration Act of 1990. And that's when 50,000 Africans per year started coming in, and other races started coming in because of the Immigration Act of 1990. Now, if you look to today's time, you got the H-1B1 visas where the Indians come over and they're getting all the Silicon Valley jobs right now out there, making all the big bucks. So my thing is, once again, this Civil Rights Act that the government was supposed to be helping us out benefited everybody else before we really got a chance to benefit. Now they're over here, these other races, turning their nose up towards us. They hate our guts. They don't fight with us. They don't fight for us. And I'll be honest with you, if a civil war broke out of here, you best believe these other races are going to fight on the side of white folks. You best believe that. I don't care all that Pan-Africanism and we all got some melanin and all that. Throw that out the damn window. Like, they going to go to the other side and they will be fighting against us. You can bet on that. So my thing is, once again, I'm just trying to make a point here. There has been no policy in this so-called democracy, none, that has benefited black people and that was just for black people. Everybody else benefits off of everything we do. But when the Latinos get their policy, we don't benefit from it. When the LGBT get their policy, we don't benefit from it. So my point is that I'm just trying to make here is nothing that this government does benefits us.
All right. Robert, take a second and encapsulate your thoughts on the debate, and you let us know, can the political system work for black people or can it not? Why or why not? And this will be the final word on the debate.
Hold on, you guys. Hold on.
Go ahead, Anthony. You got something else?
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and just keep going a little bit. My point is this: I know a lot of black people are gonna be disappointed. Some of them still worship Obama. They don't even treat him like a politician because his policy doesn't matter. I had a black dude that I know tell me that once I exposed that Obama did nothing and he couldn't fight it, he told me that Obama gave black people hope. Hope that one day there could be another black president and all this bull stuff. that I don't believe in. I'm trying to keep the language correct. But here go the whole thing. There is nothing that has happened in this society has benefited Black people itself. You know, we don't get no reparations, no benefit. Everybody else can get it. Everybody else gets everything. We don't get nothing. So I come to the conclusion that this government does not benefit Black people at all, and we will never benefit in this government and with this government, because this government is built on racism. America, the glue of America is racism, because if you look back in history, the English hated the French. They fought all the time. The Italians hated the English. The Scottish hated the English. The Irish hated the English. They all hated each other. But one thing that holds white folks together, best of all, like super glue, is hatred for niggas. Like, that is the glue in what holds this country together. Because when they get over here, they all become white. It don't matter whether you're Irish or not. They'll be like, yeah, I'm Irish, but I'm white. And we're better than those niggas. So it's the glue.
All right. All right, here, let's let Robert get in. And again, Robert, one more time, take a second. And the debate is, can the political system work for Black people? So Robert, come on and encapsulate your argument real quick and let us know whether or not the political system can work for Black people. Go ahead, Robert.
Thank you, Anthony. Learning a lot from you, definitely. Okay. The thing is, like I said earlier in the debate here, Anthony, you and I, we got the same goal. We just have different ways of getting there. Okay. You know, yours is kind of a return to the old values, you know, to the old morals, to the old ways, you know, some traditional, you know, things about that can be appreciated, definitely. But like before we were ever slaves, there was something about the old culture that got us overran in the first place. There's something about the old ways that just didn't work for us in the first place. And I'm not saying that we need to ignore the problems with the people in America and this government. What I'm saying is we need to take it upon ourselves to take advantage of something that is happening right now. Okay? I don't see where all Black people staying home and not voting would help that. Basically, when there are mechanisms that people try to put in place ever since Black people were allowed to vote to keep them from voting. Why? Because they understand that whenever there's real change in this U.S. government for anybody, it comes through forcing the government to bow to your will by a show of strength as people. That's the way that things have always changed in this country. It's never changed any other way. You have to, the government they say it's for the people, by the people. I think it's an elitist thing. I think a lot of the people in the government need to change. But it only changes the only time there's been change in this world even is when people are not afraid to speak truth to power and bend that power to their will. The only way that you can do that historically is either politically or revolutionary military action. And I think that we all would agree that Black people are in no position for a military action against the United States of America. If that was the solution, I would be for it. Because I'm not saying my way is the only way, but it's the best way. And I'm not saying that the government is perfect. but we can make it better for us. But it takes priority, it takes will, it takes guts, courage. We got to make sure that we show them we're not going to give up, no matter how racist you guys try to come against us, no matter how much oppression we perceive or see, no matter what you guys do, we're not going to give up. We're not going to go anywhere. We have just as much a right to this country as they do, if not more. But we have to prove it. And the mechanisms are there. We just have to do it. And Black people are strong. We've always proven that we are strong. It's time to use our strength, the same strength that these people have tried to kill us several times and we're not able to. That same strength that comes from that kind of resilience is something that we can use to our advantage, because if we can sustain an attack against these people, we can bend them to their will. This is true. A government cannot really stand up to more than about 13 or 14% of its population moving in a certain direction united. Eventually that government will bend its will. This has been shown throughout history, throughout other governments, throughout any beyond racial things. And it's totally possible. Obama duped a lot of people. Obama was wicked. Obama was destructive. Obama gave us the same things that a Republican president would have gave us anyway. So trusting him was bad, definitely. But that's the thing. We're becoming more savvy and we're becoming better at this process and better at this game. We can't give up right now. We have to look at what's happening right now. Look at the opportunity before you, and you will see that if we can really come together as a people ourselves, we can change things for the better, just like we've been doing for the past 150 years. We've been changing things because there was a point in time where we would have never been able to do this. But men of courage, men of valor, men that cared about their people more than they cared about their own life, looked into socioeconomic turmoil and said, this is the time. And that's what we got to do. We have to be those men now because we're alive. They're not. We can't back down.
Okay. All right, you guys go ahead and give some input. I want to thank everybody who watched, everybody in the live chat, everybody who came by for a second. If you come by later and watch, thank you for watching.
Can I make one more comment? Sorry, Tyler, I hate to cut you. I just want to make one comment.
No, because then he's going to have to make another comment too.
I know, Tyrone. I know it's your show, man.
Because then how about you come back and you do a sound off on the debate? Because you don't got just one more comment.
Okay.
Got one more comment. You got 20 more comments. And then Robert's going to have 20 more rebuttals. And we'll be here until tomorrow evening.
All right. Okay.
Hey, I just want to say thanks, man. Thanks you, Soapbox Heroes.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
Man.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming on and having a respectable debate, letting people know that these things can happen. We can have disagreements and we can have differences of thought, but we can debate them, we can talk about them, and we can let other people see different perspectives. Hopefully you'll come out of this with something. Again, if you guys can, hit the subscribe, hit the like, the share, whatever you do out here in the land of YouTube. We want to thank you guys for watching. This has been Soapbox Heroes. We're going to continue to do this. Like I said, we're definitely not new to this. We're true to this. We just been doing it on Facebook, but now we're over here in the YouTube world. And thanks to these two gentlemen, this was our first debate on YouTube. And it looks like Anthony is going to have a sound off about the debate. So, Anthony, I will be ready. And Robert, thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it again. Everybody in the live chat, everybody for watching. This is Soapbox Heroes, and we are out.